server. Okay, so you have to ask Ashish for, and you can loop me. Okay, so that the recording can be shared. Okay, great. The last recording was also on the WebEx server, so you just asked for that email. Okay, so now starting with the project work. Okay, this is very, very important, which I'm going to cover. Okay, what we are going to do over here is this. Okay, so basically, you all are aware of Twitter, right? Yes or no? Right. So most of you are using a Twitter, right? And if not, okay, so the Twitter basically is a social platform where people tweets and then they say retweets, they like the tweets, they dislike, and so on and so forth, right? So over Twitter, if I have to do certain kind of product marketing, okay, or I wanted to say, for example, your prime minister, okay, or president, or anybody who has tweeted, okay, so people will start writing it, right? So they will start commenting it out that it is something good or bad about that, right? Okay. Say for example, Narendra Modi has launched a certain campaign. Okay, people will start commenting out whether it is good, whether it is bad, what is the pros, cons, and so on and so forth, right? Uh, and people will start liking the post, people will start disliking, right? So you all of the post, all of the this politicians or anybody has their pros, this fans and followers, as well as they have their critics, right? So all of that data is there in the Twitter. Now I wanted to pull all of this data, okay, into my Hadoop. Okay, if I have to pull my data into Hadoop, what should I do? Which tool I will use to pull my data into Hadoop? Flow, right? Correct. So the Flume will be used, okay, and I'll start pulling in the data into the Hadoop, right? Now I have to place my data somewhere for the analysis, right? So basically, why I'm pulling the data is to do a certain kind of analysis, right? Okay. Now when you start doing this kind of analysis, okay, right? Now you pull a data from Twitter to Hadoop. The very first thing is data analysis has to happen, right? Because you wanted to build certain decision out of the data, right? So that analysis, if the analysis task has to happen, okay, so there has to be a very important step needs to happen, that is called a data cleaning, okay? So once the data is there, you need to do a data cleaning task, okay? And right now, data cleaning task, what we will do, we will try to do a certain kind of data, uh, uh, a certain kind of tweak in the data, existing data, as well as certain kind of data which needs to be cleaned. Okay. So what kind of data needs to be cleaned? Say for example, some of them are coming as nulls, okay, right? Some of them are not falling into positive and negative category, or they just put a invalid character sort of thing, right? So all of this kind of a data, or say for example you're only interested into a data which is coming from North America region, okay? So how do you define that this data is coming from North America? Okay, and how do you start removing the other set of a data, right? Because Twitter, anybody can comment, right? So if Narendra Modi is the has commented somebody can comment from United States, somebody can comment from Japan, China, Pakistan, right? Anybody can comment on that, right? So this is China, Japan, okay, UK, right, Australia, anybody can comment, okay, but I'm not interested with all of them. I'm only interested with the comments which is coming through North America region. So there has to be a data cleaning, or a data interested data which I would be using it for the next set of analysis, okay. Now, to do this analysis, okay, and when I say the positive comments and the negative comments, okay, the comments can be positive, negative, and the neutral, right? So basically, this is what somebody would react. Okay. Now, what are positive, what are negative? How will you say that? Okay, is good a positive or a negative? If somebody has commented in the Twitter, good, this is a good step. Okay, is it a positive comment or a negative comment? Right. So basically, okay, okay. If somebody will say this is not in best interest, okay, this is not in best interest, okay, this is not in best interest, okay. So is it a negative or a positive comment? Right, negative. Now, how do you define that this is a positive, this is a negative? There are certain keywords, okay. If you can just see this, good is a keyword. Again, if you say not, right, and not plus including some other keywords, right, so that will come as a negative comment. So now you have to define a data dictionary, or a dictionary where you put all of these words, okay, a set of words which falls into positive, a set of words which falls into negative, right, so that you could interpret the entire comment. And if you break this, and if it contains a specific word, okay, then it is a positive or a negative. You guys understood this part? A dictionary of positive and negative word, and why do we need it? Okay, right. Okay. Now this dictionary is maintained by us. Okay. So now this is basically a string, right? So what we need to do, we need to take the words from this string, right? So basically, wherever the a word is there and post that a break is there, you would like to divide this, right? And then only you would be better able to compare with whatever is in the dictionary, right? So if I have to compare whether this word is there in the dictionary or not, I need to see whether first I have to parse this, okay, you understand the parsing, right, and then see whether the dictionary have that word or not, right, right. And this is how the step you will follow, right. So once your data is come into a Hadoop, okay, the data will be in this format, right? Basically would be in this format, yes or no, right? And if data is in this format, the very first thing is to divide this data into a format like this, word by word, right? Word by word, I need to format, take out the data, right? Okay. Now, after the word data has been taken out of parsed word by word, I would try to match it with the dictionary. Okay, right? And what I will do, I will match it against the dictionary, and then if it sees a word which is available in the data, okay, then it will say the entire comment is a positive. Okay, otherwise it will say entire comment is a negative, right? Okay. Also, if I have to seek certain kind of a data cleaning task, okay, so normally when you do a data cleaning task, right, so if I have to pull out a null, okay, so the very first thing would be to filter out this data, because I would not like to take all the data which and then match it against my dictionary, because I'm not interested in all data set. I'm only interested in the data which is not having null and which is only coming from the North America region. So what we will do as part of this project, okay, so we will have a dictionary table, okay, right? We will have one tweets table, because the tweets are coming into the Hadoop, okay, so that is again in the Hive, right? And there is another set of table to match the timestamp, okay. Timestamp will tell me from the which location the data is coming, okay, and if the timestamp is matching, then only it will pick up, then only it will understand the data is coming from that location, okay. So there will be couple of tables which will be designed into the Hive. Okay. Okay. Timestamp table. Are you guys clear with till here? This would be my tweets table. Okay. So something called my tweets. Okay. Okay. Right. So if you are clear, then we'll proceed. Okay, great. So now the tweets are coming. Okay, so if you see the raw tweets, okay, I'll also try to show you a raw tweets. How does it looks like? Okay. So the raw tweets is basically in a key value format. Okay, it would be a JSON file. Okay, it will start with something like this. Okay, comments colon and then the comments. Okay, whatever XYZ is the comment, right? And then it will have something else. Okay, from and then the username, okay, whatever it is, right? So it's basically a key value pair. Right? So when it is a key value pair, right? So what do you need is before loading data into, we will do any validation. Yeah, we sure. So I have not come to the data validation part. Okay, so just wait. Okay, I'm just trying to show you the process, then we'll talk about the validation. Okay, right? Okay, right. Uh, so see, I'm still discussing about the tweets. Okay, so my tweets will come as a raw format, okay, or as a text file into my Hadoop. Now, if I have to load these tweets into my Hive, okay, so this is a JSON file. I would need to use a JSON, okay, or a JSON library to load it into the Hive tables. Okay, all of this what I'm showing you over here, okay, time table, dictionary table, and this table, all are on the Hive table. Okay, right? So I would need a JSON reader. Okay, so basically a JSON jar is required to load your data. Okay, it is nothing but when you go into the Hive shell. Okay, in the Hive shell, just write this. Okay, add. Okay, whatever the JSON name. Okay, dot jar. Okay, that also I have covered as part of the code base. Okay, so you don't have to worry about it. But just see, I'm showing you because I have done it and I am explaining you. But when you look into it, you will be able to understand more. Okay, this is required. Until you do this, you will not be able to create a Hive table. Okay, right? Because this is a JSON data. This is, if there is a normal Excel data or a text file, it is fine. You can just load it. Okay, but if it is JSON data, you need some JSON type of a file format, right? Okay, are you guys clear? Why do we need a JSON jar? Okay, great. Let's come to the analysis. Okay, uh, let me just show you the testing challenges and all. Okay, so I'll quickly talk about testing. Okay, so let's focus this discussion, today's discussion on the testing aspect. Okay, and how do you go about testing into a data warehouse project? Okay, there are certain figures which I have quoted. Okay, and why testing is important. But we all know that testing is important thing over here, right? We really would not like to get into a situation where a bad data makes a bad decision. Okay, and there is certain things which Gartner has said. Can you please increase the font size? Sure, let me do that. Okay, right. Okay, so is it okay? Okay, great. Right. So typically, industry loses around 100 millions, okay, because of the bad data quality. Okay, and what does a bad data quality means? Maybe your data is not valid, your data is not accurate, your data is not complete. We'll talk about some data quality, right, in the future slide. Okay, but this is what the industry says. Okay, and there are certain examples across the industries which have lost a huge amount of there was huge amount of data, a huge amount of the revenue loss because of the bad data, right? So there are, this is what you can read it, okay? An embarrassing economic data error rocked Wall Street today, okay? And this is something in June 2014, okay? There is a complete article which you can read it. NSA picking drawn target based on the bad data, okay? Dead by unreliable metadata. Bad data in the grocery supply chain to cost Australian retail grocery industries over $1 billion. Okay, so that is what is couple of people are saying, and you can read about it. So the main task for a tester is to find the bad data in the big data. Okay, so what we will be talking about a data quality check. So your data is here, your data came here, okay, or your data came to another layer, okay, or into this layer, right? So each layer you need to do certain kind of a data validation check, okay. So we'll talk about each of this layer, okay. Automating the testing effort, very important, right? Because I'm going to tell you only the manual approach, okay. I'm not going to show the automated approach, okay. But having seen the manual approach, you will be able to understand the automated approach, okay. Validate the data from the source and the platforms, right? So there are different data sources, right? Reporting the data differences, that is very important, because if you just think in terminology of source and target, so this is my source and this is my target, okay? So this source is giving me a data to this target. So in between there might be certain transformation or there might be no transformation whatsoever, but I would like to do a certain validation between source and target, okay, right? Okay. And then I also have to report the data difference. Right. So how do you speed up the data testing? Again, it is an important thing which you need to consider before when you're doing the testing. Unit testing and integration testing. So as I mentioned, you can do an integration level of a testing. Okay, at each integration level, right? So you are moving from here to here. There is one layer, right? From the here to you move to here. Then what happens? This becomes my source. This becomes my target, right? Yes or no? Right? Okay. So you need to do all kind of a data validation, right? So big data testing plan, let's forget about it. Okay. So let's see this architecture. Okay. Once you understand the architecture, it will be easier. Okay. And for today's discussion, let's ignore this. Okay. And let's see all of this data directly moving into the Hadoop. Okay. There is no intermediate layer. Okay. Just leave about that. Okay. So now you have so many sources, right? This can be a RDBMS sources, can be an Excel file, can be a Facebook, can be a social media website. Okay. Are you guys in sync with these sources, right? Okay. These sources can pull data into Hadoop, right? Yes or no? Hadoop can pull data from all of these sources. Do you guys agree with this or not? Right. Okay. So it pulls all of the data over here. And then once this data comes here, what you can do, you can again push back to RDBMS system. Yes or no? Right. Okay. Right. And once you push it to the RDBMS system, you can directly do the reporting on that. Right. Okay. So people who are comfortable with reports, they will tell, yeah, once it is connected to RDBMS, we can connect hook onto any analytics reporting. Okay. So this is typically the data flow that happens into this big data process. Okay. Now, should I always use a relational database management system? No, I can also use a Hive. Okay. Right. And then I can put my process data into Hive, okay, and then directly my reporting layer will connect from the Hive, right? So this is a possibility, yes or no? In spite of using this, is this a possibility to use Hive and then use the reports? Are you guys with me? Okay. See, we can do at any level. Okay, so what I'm trying to make you understand, Vishwa, is yeah, the transformation can happen any place. Okay, So if you are moving a data from here to here, okay, can you not do any kind of a transformation? Yes or no? You have seen a scoop, right? Tell me, can you do any kind of transformation? Yes or no? Yes, right. So it is all up to a business thing. What I'm trying to make you understand, okay, not the business part, okay. In our case, we will when once we are using a Flume, we are not doing any transformation, right? We are just pulling a data from Twitter and pushing it into a Hadoop. Okay, that's what we are trying to do. Okay, right? And then after that, we are doing a once we are moving a data, right, from Hadoop to Hive. Okay, in spite of using this, okay, in spite of using this guy, we are using an Hive. Okay, right? And then moving the data into the Hive data warehouse, right? And we all know that Hive sits on top of Hadoop only, right? And then we can use a reporting architecture, right? Okay. In our project, we are not doing any kind of data validation from here to here. Okay, right? Only data validation we are doing from here to here, and then from here to here. Okay, this two layer. Okay, right? Should we proceed? Okay, right. So what kind of validation has to be done? Okay, this is a generic approach if you are talking about any project. Okay, loading data into HDFS, executing the map reduce job, and rolling out the output from HDFS, right? So these are typical steps if you are going into any big data testing process. Okay, because right now I'm using an Hive. Okay, Hive basically internally runs a map reduce job to process my data, right? And then which can be used for further analysis and reporting, right? So or you can use directly the raw map reduce. Okay, so there is no harm in using a raw map reduce. Okay, uh, and then finally you push out the data into HDFS again, and then which can be used for the reporting purpose. Okay, uh, right. So there are so leaving all of these things. So let me come back to what kind of data validation test we will do. Okay. Okay. So typically all your data quality checks will happen in this bucket. Okay. So let me just reduce it to a little. Okay. Can you guys see this? Are you guys able to see this screen? Right. Okay. So, so these are the certain kind of data quality checks. So what will happen, right? So how do we define this? There is a row count check. Okay. So row count is basically you take a source, okay, and you take a target, and then you just do a row count check. Okay. In big data, what you can also do is to do a file size check. Okay. So if you are just loading a file, okay, which is very huge, okay, so what you can do, okay, so what you can just check the size of the file, okay. Uh, but font is still not visible. Can you please increase a little bit more font size? Okay, right, is it okay? Okay, fine. So there is a row count check which I was talking about, right? So this is the very first check you will do between source and target. Okay, okay. So Chandra, hope you are also fine with this, right? The font size. Okay. So then there is a completeness check, and then the consistency check. Okay. So what is a completeness check? Whether your data is complete in all terms. Okay. So maybe when you are, you might have a row count check. Okay. And which says, okay, the number of rows in the source is X, number of rows in the destination is also X, right? But is that means that the completeness of data is also done? It might not, right? Because you might have a certain columns where the data is missing, okay, or you might not have the complete data in that column. Okay, so in that case, what will happen? Or the if I have a column, if I have a 4 columns over here and 4 columns into the destination, right? So do you think this column, until unless those the data into these columns are complete and consist and same, okay? Do you think it does make any sense to have a row count check? Okay, row count check is fine. Okay, but you need to go a next level where you need to do a completeness check whether the data is completed or not. Okay, so whatever data is available here, has it moved to the same column? That is very, very important. Does it have the same content or not? Okay, right? Then there is something called a consistency check. Consistency check is basically when you are talking about uh, uh, consistent data, right? So basically, if in the source, okay, if there is a consistency involved, okay, in terms of the decimal format or the till to the two digit of decimal places and so on and so forth, right? So all of this has to be consistent in that. Okay, valid data. Okay, so validity will come in terms of domain validity. Okay, say for example, you are only interested into a certain geographies. Okay, or you are only expecting a certain completeness, rows and columns are same or not. We will verify in source industry alone without considering data, right? Okay. I'll come back to you and show you visual example also. Okay, so I have an example. I hope so. Okay, so let me just see if I have an example. Okay, so that you can better correlate to that. Okay, right. So do you see this completeness check example? Okay, right. So I have two tables, and if you see this, I am pushing into this into records. Okay, so basically I have a 7 records. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. Now what has happened over here is when you do this. Okay, so basically when you see a branch start date, okay, it is something like this: valid at source. Okay, value at source and value at target. Okay, so just let's pick up that thing. Now you wanted to just see whether this completeness check has been done or not. Okay, so because if you see this, there is a mismatch into the date, right? For the same customer or the same branch ID, right? So though your count is same, okay, we'll talk about the missing records and extra record. That's absolutely different. Okay, what we are trying to do in terms of completeness check, apart from missing and extra records, is also to mismatch records, right? You can fill up your bucket into these 3 categories, right? Okay, uh, and when you do a row count, okay, if there are 7 here, 7 in the destination, we are all good, right? But when you do a completeness check, you need to see whether the data, right? So some of the data which are missing, okay, some of the data which are extra, right? Do you have extra set of a data, okay? And what extra set of data you have? Do you see certain kind of a mismatch in the records and all? Okay, this is a completeness check, right? There is a consistency check also, right? So basically, when you see about a consistency, right? So right, so this is one thing. Okay. So consistency is, say for example, in US, you always store your data into MMDDYY, right? Right. So first is the month, then the date, okay, and then the year. Whereas in India, what you say, you store date and then the month and then the year, right? So these are the two different ways of storing a data, right? But when you're trying to pull this data into a consolidated data warehouse, okay, you would need to put it into a format, okay, which is consistent, right? So you understand my point, right? I cannot have one data in this. Otherwise, what will happen? Right? I need to convert this into a format which is common and then pull it into my target. Okay. Hope I'm clear with this. Okay. So in the target, it should either be in this format, okay, or in this format, right? So one of the format only, right? So this is all where I'm consolidating all my customer. Otherwise, what will happen? How do I read it? One second. How do I read this data, right? Because this is my month, this is my date, right? Based on India, okay. So this has to be consistency check, which needs to be done as part of that. Okay, so let's go back and see what are the. Then the validity. Validity is basically domain values and the business values. Okay, say for example, what kind of accounts you can have in a retail banking, right? Or what kind of different geographies you can have, right? In US, okay, or what kind of product base you have, right? So that is your domain value. Okay, you cannot have anything beyond that. So you need to check on your domain values. Are you guys okay with this, the validity part? Okay. And there is something called physical and logical duplicates. So let me just go back and go with the examples. Okay, that is more understandable. Okay. So validity is like basically a date of birth, right? So let's say this. Is this a data valid? Okay. If you just see this, okay. So let me just bring it up. Okay. So the date of birth is this. Okay. Right. And date of birth and date of expiry is this. Okay. So what does that mean? Okay. So there are different examples. Values falling outside of the range. Okay. So that is one example which we can see. So let's assume this is outside the range. Okay. Or maybe you have a two geographies. You are showing 10 geographies. So that is outside of range. This is one example. Another example is basically a date of birth, right? So if you see this MMDDYY, okay, uh, so it's all 13th month, okay, and 13th date and 2017, right? So this is not correct, okay. And similarly, if you see this date of, so the death date is, birth date is greater than the death, okay. So this is again a non-valid thing, so which you have to check for the validity of your data set, okay. Duplicates of physical duplicates and the logical duplicates. Okay, so if you see this, the customer ID and so on and so forth, these are the physical duplicates, right? So you have to just check it out whether the physical duplicates are available or not. Okay, so Jim, Sam, right? So Sam basically is a physical duplicates, right? Because it has got the same customer ID. Okay, whereas these are the logical duplicates. If you just see the Jim, okay, because the ID is different, okay, but apart from that, everything else is same, okay. So that is what the physical and the logical duplicates are, okay. The next thing is the referential integrity checks, okay. So again, this is important, customer and the department, okay. So basically a parent table is a department table, or you can say is employee table, okay, or and a department table, right? So see, the referential integrity check has to be happen on a ID, right? So basically ID over here, okay, it should match with over here, okay. If it is not there, then these are the kind of issues that will happen, okay. Foreign key has to be present as the primary key, right? So if you guys are just wondering what is the issue, okay, so whatever are the foreign key, okay, that has to be present into the primary key table, okay. So these two are the issues with this parent child relationship, okay, right? This is called a referential integrity check. Are you guys with me? Should we proceed? Okay, great, right? Then there is another set. Okay, so let's go back. Why it is going too fast? Okay, domain integrity, right? So basically, I was talking about integrity of a domain, right? So if you see this, these are the branch ID and the branch names. Okay, Some of the branch names are not correct. Okay, so this is one type of, because you have a lookup table which only have New York and San Francisco. You don't have ABC and LA. Okay, so these are the invalid values which you have to look up. A lookup table is not having. Okay, so what is a lookup table? Lookup table is basically a master table, which you can say. Okay, so whatever values you are having, it is present in the lookup value or not. Okay, right. So say in India there are 26 states, right? So if you have a 28 or 30 states, okay, or maybe a 32 steps, so you need to see which are the invalid values in that column or for that value, right? Okay. And then there is certain truncation, data type, and so on and so forth. So you see that there is something, New York is came over here and so on and so forth, right? Okay. And there is an accuracy check. Okay, so accuracy is how accurate your data is. Okay, so basically if you just see this, okay, in the accuracy, say for example, your date of birth. Okay, so your date of birth is 2002. Okay, but somehow the data itself entered is wrong. Okay, so it has entirely different date of birth. Okay, so in that case, what will you do? Okay, so that are the accurate. You don't have accurate data. Okay, this is typically getting a flow from multiple sources. Okay, so customer and account, which is a true source, and then there is a CRM source, and then the target source. Okay, so somewhere the data has been screwed up. Okay, you might have a true source over here, but when you are moving a data from CRM to the target, okay, CRM has captured some data which is not true. Okay, so say for example, you told your date of birth is 1982 or 1984. Okay, and that CRM system somehow has a data 1948. Okay, so it has just reverse 84 to 48. Okay, so so the data itself is in the CRM is stored as 48. Okay, so that comes into the target, it will be again a 48. Okay, but is it accurate data or not? We need to understand that. Okay, so that is another kind of check which you have to do. Okay. There is something on the usability check, because in the database you can store anything, right? So you can store New York as NY, right? But when it goes to a reporting table, okay, reports are basically where you would like to see a detail, basically a descriptive field. Okay, so it would we showing NY is not so good as showing New York. Okay, so that is where will show as a New York. Okay, and that is more readable and that is more user friendly and all. Similarly, in place of showing LA, okay, just show it as a Los Angeles. Oh, sorry. So are you guys clear on, sorry, I was sorry about it. Okay. So are you guys clear on the testing part? Should we move onto the project part now? Again, coming back to the project part, or you want anything to be repeated? Okay. So let's come back to the project. Okay. So I have done a lot of this thing, right? So basically, let's see how you guys are gonna do this. Okay. Right. So very first thing you will do. Okay. So there is a project objective. Just read through it. It will connect to the live social media and extract data into the Hadoop and blah blah blah. Okay. Uh, and then it says create tables in Hadoop and provide interface and all. So whatever I have said over here, okay, described you, that is what it is there. Okay. Sentimental data, I have explained you what is a sentimental data. Okay. Potential use of sentimental data, right? So how you can use this potential sentimental data. Okay. You can define a trend, you can define a competitor's trend and so on and so forth. Okay. Right. What is the prerequisite? Okay, so there are certain prerequisites. So again, you don't need a Hortonworks Hadoop because we have I have my own Hadoop which you guys are currently using. Okay, so you don't need all of these things. Okay, right? None of these things you need it. Okay, only make sure that you open up all your files from the your VM virtual machine directly. Okay, right? And then open up your you know the source code where the source code is available, right? Are you guys aware of the source code available when you download, right? So download code once you log in into the website. Okay, right? So once you log in, one second, number login. I'm not sure. Okay. So once you log in here over here, you can download the source code over here. Okay. Okay. So entire source code is available over here, right? So now let's go back and see something more. Okay. Right. So you don't need all of these things. Okay. So project files and setup and so on and so forth. Right. So just leave about it. Okay. Uh, uh, there are certain folder structures and all which I have explained you into the videos. Okay. But the very important thing is how do you pull a Twitter data? Okay. So in order to pull a Twitter data, the very first thing you need to create a Twitter application. Okay. How do you create a Twitter application? Go to this Twitter website. Okay. Right, and then you have an option to create a new app. Okay, once you create a new app, okay, it will give you a list of options. Okay, one second, one second, something is missing. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, sure, sure, that's what I was trying to do. Okay. Okay, right. Okay, so once you go to this website, okay, you need to have your Twitter account, okay? Otherwise, it will not allow you to create it, okay? So just ensure that you have a Twitter account and you are logged in, okay? And once you log in, you go to this website, okay? dev.twitter.com.apps and click on create new app, okay? Once you create a new app, it will ask for very basic information and it will generate the following information. Okay, so these are the four set of information which you would need to put it into your Flume configuration file. Okay, right? So this is very important that once you create an app, okay, you take care of this four basically these four values. Okay, right? And the next thing is to install and configure Flume. Okay, so you don't have to install it. Okay, you have to only configure the Flume. Okay, and I'll tell you how to configure the Flume. Okay, There is something. Okay, right. Right. So you don't need to do this, okay? It is already present over here, okay? That a jar file which I have already created, okay? So what do you need to do is you need to just build up the source code, okay? This 1 second. All right. So once you have downloaded or once you have done this app creation, okay, you don't have to do this step, okay? Right. I have already created you a jar file, created a jar file for you. Okay. Just put it into this location. Okay. The jar file would be available over here. Just copy the jar file and put it into this location. Okay. Okay. 1 second. Let me just explain you with this. Okay. So my jar file is present under the downloads folder somewhere. Okay. Okay. You guys have to move that into Flume folder. Okay. So that is what I have done. I have put it into the Flume folder. This is my destination, and my jar file which I have created, I have placed it over here. Okay. Are you guys with me? Are you guys with me? Yes or no? Okay, great. Now what you need to do, so this jar is one thing. Then there is something which you need to change into your class path, because finally this jar has to be placed. Okay, so I have placed my jar over here. Okay, but how do I know where is my jar? Okay, so in order to have that, I need to put it into my Flume class path. Okay, this Flume class path variable is basically a Flume env.sh file. Okay, right? In this file, there is a variable Flume class path, and you give this path name over here. Okay, so that is what Flume environment.ps1 file. This file is available. Okay, the configuration file which is available under the Flume. Okay, Flume configuration. The location is not etc. The location will be for us. Okay, user local Flume. Okay, right? Because we have installed Flume more in this directory, right? So once you have this, you tell Flume class path is so and so. Okay, so that it could pick up the jar file, right? Now the next thing is to edit the configuration file. Okay, this is the environment file. Then there is something called flume.configuration file. Okay, okay. Are you guys with me? I'm going very slow so that you could understand it also. Anyway, you have to go back and see the videos once again. Okay, but okay, right. So the next thing is to edit a Flume configuration file. Flume configuration file will have all the information about source, channels, and sync. Right? You guys remember now Flume? What I have taught you? Right? The source would be a Twitter source. The channel would be in this case, just see the file. I have configured the channel as a memory channel, and sync is an HDFS. Okay, just brush up the concept of Flume again. Okay, and you will be able to Twitter. Okay, and channel is a memory channel. Okay, right? So this Flume configuration file is basically having all of this, and then what I will also put over here is, okay, the API keys which I have generated through my Twitter app creation. Okay, so I'll show you that file. Okay, So a configuration file, I'll have a customer key, customer secret, and so on and so forth, and everything would be available into this configuration file. There will be set of parameters. So this is how the configuration file will look like. Okay. So what are the source? Source is a Twitter channel. What is a channel? Memory channel. What is a sink? HDFS sink. Right. So this file would be available into your path, and then it will say okay, so on and so forth. So this is a Twitter specific customer key and all of these things, which will be which has been created when you create an app. Okay. What is the keywords? I have used this keyword. You can use any keyword. You can use Modi, Obama, or whatever. Okay. Whatever keywords you are interested in, you can use that. Okay. Just make sure you don't have too much of a keywords. And then sync channel is a memory channel. Okay. So then sync is an HDFS, and then the path of the HDFS, and so on and so forth. Right. Okay. And there are so many parameters which I have defined there, which we have run through. Okay. Are you guys clear on this configuration file, and how do we populate this configuration file? Yes, no. See, the file is already available. Okay. So don't worry that file is not available. File is already available. Okay. But this is how it is. It would look like. Okay. So that's what I wanted you to understand. Okay. This config also will have, we have open and then this config file also. Okay. So there are two sets of file. Okay. One is flume environment.sh, where I just have specified the flume class path. Okay. And this is a separate file. This configuration also available. No. So these are two separate files. Vishwa. Hope you understood. This is another file. Okay. So let me just clarify it. Okay. So this is another file and this is another file. These are two files. Both are available into the same structure, but these are two separate files. Okay. So let me just quickly open up the cluster. Okay. So let me just go back user local flow. Okay. So now if you see this under the configuration folder, there are two files. Okay. One is flume conf. Okay. And there is another file environment.sh. Okay. And separate file, but while changing keys in the flume config file, we have changed some data to add that data. We are flume config file resides in here to find the right. My question is the flume config also resides. No, no, these are no flume configuration is in a separate thing. Okay. So if you just open up this, okay, the content which will okay, so right. If you just see this, I'm just putting a Flume class path over here, nothing else. Okay, so this file contains nothing else apart from this location of my snapshot jar. Okay, maybe some Java options and all it might contain, but this is the only thing it will contain, nothing else. But if you see this Flume conf, okay, if you just see this flume.conf, right, it will contain all of this details, Twitter sources and then agent and sync and so on and so forth. Okay, right. So these are two the content of the files are entirely different. Okay. Okay, right. So let's come back and okay, so what is the next? Okay, what is the next step? Once you have the Flume configuration file, you have a class file defined. Okay, what would be the next step? Okay, so next step would be to run the Flume, right? I definitely have to run the Flume. Okay, so that the data would be now start ingesting into HDFS, right? Okay, so that is what we will do. Okay, so run the Twitter extraction program using Flume. Okay, so just do that. It will start pulling out all the data and start pushing it into the into HDFS. Okay, you also have to make certain directories. As I said, we'll create a dictionary. Okay, we also will create a time zone map. Okay, and we'll create a tweets raw map. Okay, now dictionary is loaded into a dictionary. As I said, like this is an Excel file where we'll have all the keys, values. So some words which is positive, some words which are negative, and similarly for the time zone. Okay, so this all. So you just put this file into this location, whatever location you have created for that. Okay, right. Okay. Now you can see the contents of this. You start executing this Flume agent, okay, and then basically once you start doing that, this is the kind of data you will see. Okay, as I mentioned it, your data would look like a JSON file, right? So JSON file is something like a key and a value associated with that. If you see this text is a key, mobile technology, Microsoft Lumia 830 appears with Nokia branding, blah, 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 right? That is my value associated with that. Okay. So filter level is the key, medium is an attribute, contributors are key, null is a value, and so on. Media URL and so on and so forth, right? So all of these are the Twitter's raw data, which will start inserting, which will start coming once you run this command. Okay, you don't have to run as it is, just mention flume ng agent and the configuration file name. Okay, so don't look into all of this thing. You want to put it into the console, put it into the console. Otherwise, in place of debug, you can also change it to info. Okay, just remember whatever we have done for the flume. Okay, we have used info, you can use info. There is a different levels which you can do the logging, right? Okay, are you guys clear till the step third? Because this is the where the data will all come in, and you can start now reading the data through the cat command. Okay, so now you run your flume, now push your data into HDFS. Yeah, flume is always run with flume ng, right? So how do you run a flume? Okay, if you have forgotten, okay, so flume ng agent, okay, then you say name of agent XYZ, okay, right? Then you say the file name, the configuration file name, flume.conf, right? Hope you guys remember this, right? And there is some other thing, right? So there are something called non-optional parameters where you say debug, log, info, and so on and so forth, right? Okay. Are you clear on the step 3? We'll go to the step 4. Okay, right. So step 4, right? So you have data into Hadoop. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a table out of the data. Okay, so that's this data has to be read into my certain tables, right? So there are certain set of SQL files, okay, again which is available, okay, once you download the code base, okay, and you create a table, okay. So how do I create a table? Okay, just don't read all of this thing. Creating table, you know, right? Create. So there is a in tweets.sql, that is a file. Maybe I should open up and show it to you. One second. Okay, great. Right. So oh my God, this too bad to be seen. I'll close this off. And it's too bad. How do I zoom it? Toggle full screen. Okay. I'm just trying to zoom in so that you guys can see it. Okay. Let me know once you are comfortable seeing the content. Is it okay now? Is it okay? Great. Okay. So see the table which we have created. Okay. So nothing. As I mentioned, you just need to add. The very first thing is to use a JSON survey. Okay. So this also is available in the location. Just add that thing. Okay. Then you start creating a table. Okay, so as I explained you, we'll create an external table. Okay, to its raw, there is a lot of fields available over here, and there is data type which we have covered, arrays, structured, and all of these things, right? Okay, so you will see the real implementation of arrays structure over here. Okay, so you create a table. Okay, that is the very first thing. Similarly, you create a table for dictionary and for the time zone. Okay, right? And then once you create a table, what you need to do, you need to give the load the data also, right? So basically, right now it is all take. If it is an external table, you can define a location from where it will pick up the data. Okay, so as of now it is OSG dev. You can change that location. Okay, to whichever location your raw files are available, or your dictionary is available, or your time zone map is available, right? So whatever you guys have done in this step, okay, right? So we have created certain dictionaries, right? Certain directories, sorry. So all of these directories is having a raw data, okay? It's having a raw data, and this is the way I am gonna load that data from there, okay? So are you guys clear with this? Okay. So this is just run the entire this thing, okay, and then it will create a set of tables, okay. My tweets raw dictionary time zone map, okay. Then there is something called tweets simple, tweets clean, okay. So after that, what it will do, it will try to clean up the tweets, okay. So I'm now starting to clean up my tweets, okay, and I'll see what all I am going to do to clean up the tweets, okay. Cleaning up the tweets is very important, okay. because if I'm getting a data from I would really you would be interested in the timestamp, and then I'm going to map that timestamp with the multiple tables and so on and so forth, right? Compute the sentiments. Okay, so here also, how do you compute the sentiment? Okay, that is what is there. Okay, and then you finally do a polarity. Okay, polarity means it can be negative, it can be positive. Okay, and based on that you can generate the sum of the polarity. So that will tell you to help you to put all, which is the number of counts for each polarity, put everything back together and the number the sentiment. That's what it is done. Okay, and there is something called n-gram. Okay, which I have explained to you in that. Okay, so basically n-gram is like three words which are repeating. Okay, so say for example, I love you. Okay, that is the n-gram. Okay, so after I, love will come, and after love, you will come, right? So similarly, if you have to do certain kind of analysis on the three keywords which are coming together, you will use the Twitter n-gram. This is a 3 grams because three words are repeating. It can be a 2 gram if two words are repeating. Okay. So if I say I did, these are two words, right? So you have to define what is that. Okay, and then finally it will just tell me that this is what the n-gram for it. Okay, right? So there are certain functions which we have used, which I have covered in my basically in my Hive videos. So that functions you have to go through in case you wanted to understand more what this function does. So right now the function context n-gram is there, right? So joins are okay, but there are some functions over here. Lateral view we have used. Okay, sentences we have used, explode we have used. What it does. Okay, so is basically will help you to this this script will work, but if you have to understand more, which I have explained you with a much better explanation, so you can just go through that. Okay, so very, very important. Okay, and once you do this, okay, are you clear with the step 5? Sorry, step 4, the table creation part and the data cleaning. Should we proceed? Yeah, Vishwa. So in a step 4, what is happening, right? In a step 4, okay, I'll just repeat it for you. Okay, no problem. Oh, I have closed that. Okay. In a step 4, we are creating all of these tables. Okay. We are creating certain external tables. Okay, in Hive. That's what I was showing you the code base. It creates, so whatever data is now available into your HDFS, okay, that data finally goes loaded into your Hive table. Okay, so till here my data was in HDFS. You guys are in sync, right? And from HDFS, I would have to start pulling my data into my Hive tables and do lot of cleaning activity. So what tables I have created? I have created my tweets raw. I have created dictionary table. I have created the other set of tables. Okay, so it effectively creates around all of this table. So just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? So all of these tables are created. Okay, right? And my tweets raw will only have a tweets related data, dictionary will have a dictionary related data, and this time zone will have a time zone related data. Then other data sets are getting populated, other tables are getting populated. These are views, okay, cleanup and simple that are generated based on multiple joins on this two table set. Okay, you understood, Vishwa? Okay, great, right? So once you create all of this table structure, so what is the next thing, right? The next thing is the reporting part, okay? Because you have all the data, you have done all your analysis, finally is the reporting, okay? So what do we need? We just need an Microsoft Excel. Okay. We don't need this Hortonworks driver and all of these things. Okay. Because we are not connecting to the Hortonworks platform. Okay. So what we have done, we have copied that data from the final table and put it into the Excel sheet. Okay. So right now we are trying to just pull in the data and it would be something like this. Okay. So this is my final output. Okay. So if you guys can see this, right? Okay. There are positive sentiments, there are negative sentiments, and there are neutral sentiments. Okay, for each of the country associated. Okay, maybe the depending upon what parameters you configured in the flume.config. Okay, you will have a different set of data. Okay, and this is how the data would be displayed, right? Okay, so step 5 is more about a reporting. Okay, nothing more than that. Okay, you can make a pivoting chart and all of this thing and just show that. Okay, right? So I'm done for today. How we are exporting data from HiTable to Excel for reporting. Select Vishwa, select a star from this, copy paste the data from the Hive and put it into the Excel. Okay. Yeah, we are not using ODBC, though you can use a ODBC driver. Okay. But right now in my code base, I am just doing select a star from. Okay. I can use anything, right? So basically, if I'm connecting to a SQL server or if you're connecting to Oracle server, what I do a select a star from all the data which comes, copy paste and put it into the Excel sheet. Okay. Again, this is more from a project perspective, right? So if you are working into enterprise project, you might have to do in a different way. So maybe a different reporting mechanism which you have to use. Okay. Right. Okay. So I'm all done. Okay, so I want you guys to work on the project. I'm not sure what Akash has missed this. Okay, but